Good afternoon, everyone. Allison Skalberg here, Consolidated Planning Group. We are happy to be here with you today. If you are joining us for the very first time, welcome. We are so glad that you are here. If you have been attending our webinars for years, welcome back. We are certainly glad you are back. Today, we are excited to be partnering again with My Possibilities. They are going to be talking about building a future without limits, and they're going to be sharing a whole lot more about who is My Possibilities, what their mission is, how you could be involved, how your loved one could, be a part of their mission there and what they're doing. They're doing big things, and I'm really excited about that. And so one of the things I always encourage people when we're talking about, a place that has day programs, a place that has residential or things like that, I always encourage families to visit. Take a visit, take a tour. It is so good. I had the pleasure of doing that myself, and it was pretty awesome, the things that they're doing. And so, anyway, we're excited to hear about that. I always start with a few housekeeping items. So the first thing that I want to share is that we are in webinar mode today, which means that we can't see you or hear you, but we know you're there. So we are glad that you are here. And our chat box is open for any questions. If you wrote in a question, you send a question in ahead of this, we have it. And we're going to get to as many questions as we can during the time that we have together today. So we're going for an hour. So if you're planning your lunch or planning anything else, that is how long we're going. All of this is recorded. You're going to get a copy of today's slides and a link to the recording. And all of our past recordings are going to live on the Consolidated Planning Group YouTube channel, which you can subscribe to for free. There are over 600 webinars on planning for special needs. So if you can think of it, we've probably done a webinar on that, and you can check that out at your leisure. So we are nationally certified as Social Security advisors. We're members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, chartered special needs consultants. Our whole firm here at Consolidated Planning Group is specifically trained in helping you plan for the future of your loved one with a disability. So some people have done a lot of planning and they feel really great about it and they just want a second opinion. Maybe their advisor wasn't nuanced in special needs. Some people are just getting started. And some people are kind of somewhere in between there, where we got started and then we put it on the shelf and we need to dust it back off and kind of pick up where we left off. So wherever you are on that plan, then we can certainly help you with that. So I want to make sure that we have as much time as possible for today's content. So I'm going to turn everything over to Shelley Crowder with My Possibilities. Shelley, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us today. We can't wait to hear more about what you guys have got going on.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. I'm really excited to partner with Consolidated Planning again. They've been excellent partners with us, and we have some things planned for the future, some presentations that they're going to come do with us here at MP. But today we're going to talk about the all things My Possibilities and who we are, what we do, and how we might be able to be a part of your journey as you are walking through what does the future look like for my loved one. So, My Possibilities is a year-round, full-day program for adults with intellectual disabilities. Most of our programs start at age 18 and then go up from there. We don't have an age out at My Possibilities. Our oldest HIPster is in his 70s, and that's part of our mission is to serve HIPsters in place for as long as possible. Um, so, in My Possibilities, we refer to everyone as a HIPster, a hugely important person. And that really speaks to our mission. That language is very intentional. We want our HIPsters to always feel like they are the most important people here when they're with us and give us the opportunity to help them, to help guide them, to provide them the opportunities that they would like to have during their day. Everything we do here at My Possibilities is grounded in providing those HIPsters voice and choice in their day and help them be able to take ownership over their lives. And that's really what all of our programming is based around. It's how our classes are developed, all of those kinds of things. So let's talk a little bit for just a few minutes about the need. I know that we know that the need, especially here in our North Texas area, is huge and it's ever growing. I often hear from families that once their loved one is exiting their school system, that we all talk about falling off the cliff. That they feel like there's a significant gap in services, or they don't know how to get connected to services. And that can feel really very overwhelming for them. And I know that you guys that are here today understand that. What we do know is adults with intellectual disabilities make up about 4% of our population here in the United States, and about 206,000 of those individuals live here in North Texas. About 52% of adults leave high school with a diploma. 62% of parents with adults don't have a plan for their future. That's part of what we are trying to help provide some options today for you to consider as you're planning for that future. Competitive employment rates are very low at 4%. Um, and these are all, at the end of the day, these are all gaps that we at My Possibilities are trying to help fill in any way that we can, in providing education, in providing high quality day services, in providing vocational training. And that's a little bit of what we're going to kind of dive into today. Awesome. All right, so let's just talk a little bit about the history of My Possibilities. My Possibilities started with a vision in 2007 with some moms whose loved ones or children were exiting public school, and they didn't know where their children were going to go, what was going to come next. So they started doing some planning in a Starbucks on a napkin. Literally, the napkin is still up in our boardroom, really to help us remember why, what was the vision? Why are we doing this? Why are we continuing to put our efforts in these specific areas? And it all started on that napkin in 2007. In 2008, we opened our first building with 10 HIPsters, and it's really just, exploded from there. In 2009, 2010, we started adding additional services like speech therapy. In 2013, MP moved into a bigger building so that we can increase our impact and serve more. And then in 2018, My Possibilities opened their campus, or our campus for higher learning, which is located here in Plano, Texas, where I am currently. If you're from the area, we are just off of George Bush, kind of between Independence and Coit, right there, if you're familiar with the area. 2020, we all lived through COVID just like everyone else. We did have to shut down for a short period of time. The big year at My Possibilities, that's when we opened our Employment Innovation School, which really more purposefully launched our vocational training program here at MP. And then in 2025, we had another big milestone for My Possibilities when we merged with another local organization, Ability Connection. Ability Connection has been a service provider in the area, and a provider of services in the W area for quite a long time. Are we good, Allison?
Yeah, we're having some, I think you're having bandwidth connection issues. So maybe let's turn your
Okay.
camera off. Your voice is going in and out. Let's turn your camera off and see if that does better.
Okay. Can you hear me still?
I can, and that's better. Thanks.
Great. Okay, perfect. Um, so our merger with Ability Connection. So really what that has provided us is the ability to expand our services across the DFW area. I know somebody had just asked where we located. This campus where I am sitting today is in Plano, but now along with this merger, we also have an Irving-based campus now. So we're able to now serve that side of the Metroplex into Tarrant County. And in some of those areas where it might have been difficult to get to our Plano campus, our Irving campus is now an option as well. Um, it also, go ahead.
Can you mention about I want you to talk about that golf course. Like is that involved or like kind of what's going on with the Garland golf course?
Yeah, so that kind of falls under our residential services. So a couple of years ago, with the cost of housing rising or building really rising, we decided to let go of that property in Garland, and kind of step away from that particular project. But we are launching our own MP residential program starting this year. And we're doing that through group homes, and in partnership as a part of our merger with Ability Connection. So Ability Connection came to us with 4 group homes, that had been under their umbrella for quite a long time. And through that expertise, now MP will be opening its first group home in 2026 with plans to definitely expand beyond that one home, to other homes in the future.
Okay, and then do
Get
they have
out.
any
Yeah.
plans for Houston or other major cities in Texas?
Not right now. Right now, we're really focused on the DFW area, and at the moment, that's where we plan to keep our focus.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to go one more slide. Perfect. Okay. So at My Possibilities, we do have lots of different programs, and I'm about to dive into each of those and give you a little bit more information. But as many programs as we have, really the focus of all of them is the same. It's really to help our hipsters grow in their independence, in their confidence, continue to make connections with other individuals, connect to their community. We know that every hipster's journey is different. And what we want is to work on creating individualized pathways for each of these hipsters in whatever way they want. It's about their own self-determined life, and we are just here to provide as much support in that direction as we possibly can. So we'll go on to the next slide and talk about our lifelong learning program. Our lifelong learning program is our continuing education program, that's really based on hipsters' areas of special interest. It's the first program that MP launched way back when, that we've been refining over time. But it's really meant to build skills in special interests, daily living independent skills, socialization, communication. Those are some of those specific goals there. And
Is
then if
this
we go,
partnered with UT's lifelong learning program for individuals with disabilities?
no, we're a separate program from the
Got it.
UT program.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we'll go to, yeah, perfect. Next slide. So these are, this is how our lifelong learning program is organized. So we have kind of 5 tracks of learning that we have through lifelong learning: promoting independence, general studies, which is really some academic and pre-academic learning, creative arts and self-expression. That's going to look like music classes and art classes, performing arts classes, theater classes. Kind of, if you can think of it, we probably have a class built around it. Some pre-vocational training, and then health and wellness. We weave special interest classes into all of these, like book club class, wrestling club, where hipsters do not wrestle, they watch wrestling and talk about it. It's one of our most popular classes. Sports talk, fashion, dance classes, karaoke class. we have a very expansive catalog of classes that we offer currently that really were all driven by hipsters. If a hipster comes to us and shows interest in a certain area, then or asks for a particular type of class, we're going to work with our curriculum writers to really build a class around what they are wanting. All right. Our next program that we're going
We
to talk
have
about, I
just a couple of questions that I want to just go over. And so one person says we need a big picture first. Is this residential program for how many months, how many years? And I know you guys are adding residential this year. There was a vision, and then you guys sold the golf course. Um, so can you kind of get the big picture of long term of what the plan is for residential?
Yeah, so like I said, we have shifted our focus to more of a group home model. Um, so that is for residents in a home with trained staff. And we're starting with one home this year, and then we will build on from there as we have need to do so. And so in the big picture, that is long term, you know, lifelong, as long as that person can be supported in that home, for as long as they are wanting to stay there, and as long as we are able to support them. That's their home, just like I live in my home and you live in your home. So that's the long range piece of that.
Is there a such thing, or has this been discussed? And that's okay, like if it hasn't,
Uh-huh.
but where like families may already have a home that could be potentially earmarked as
Yes.
a group home, but they would like to partner with you because they don't want to be in the group home business.
Definitely. Yeah.
Is that a thing? Because I know a lot of families that might be interested in something like that.
Yes. So we have actually our first home that we are renovating right now and getting ready to open, came from a family who had a home and donated that home to us. And we have had other families approach us for
We lost you.
sizing. And
Can you say that one more time? It cut out. We didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. So we have had a home already donated that we're working on renovating to open up later this year. And then we have already been approached by other families who either have a home that they are wanting to donate for this purpose, or in the future and do want to earmark that for my possibilities to be able to open up another group home.
So one big question. Okay, so in summary, right now you've got like day programs, multiple different days of the week, and maybe they come 5 days a week, maybe they come 2 days a
Right.
week, whatever it may be. You have those programs, and those are in full force and
Yes.
rearing and going fantastic. And then the
Yes.
vision is expanding the residential services that's happening this year, and then you guys will
Yes.
continue to expand that going forward. So one of the questions that always comes up every single time is, do you guys take waivers, Medicaid waivers or
Yes.
not for your day program? Do you intend to take those for the group homes? Most group homes do take the waivers. Can you just
Yes.
tell everybody about that?
Yes, and I have a slide. If you want to jump down kind of towards the end, I have a slide on that coming up. But we do take HCS waiver funding, we take class funding, private pay funding, and then some Texas Workforce as it will fund some of our programs. We don't do as much Texas Workforce funding, but we do accept that level of funding as well. It may be down in the payment piece where it talks about tuition options, Allison. Anyway, we accept all of those forms of funding for our day programs, for our vocational program, as well as for the residential program.
So we have one person that talks about their loved one that is nonverbal. Would they be a fit? And another person that talks about their loved one who their IQ is slightly above IDD, but they need help in a lot of areas. And so could you kind of talk to us about who is an ideal fit for your program? We know that there are some programs that they're not able to meet the needs of some individuals. So can you share with us who your ideal hipsters are? You mentioned that the ages range from, you know, young adults all the way on up 70s or 80s. But tell
Right.
me the functioning level that you guys work with.
Yeah, so it really just depends on the program. So let me talk about a little bit about our newest program that's opening this summer, because that I think that's a good glide path to this conversation. So historically, at My Possibilities, we were really only able to support individuals that functioned well or navigated well in a one staff member to 16 hipster ratio, that had a level of independence with their daily living skills, particularly around feeding and toileting. And for much of our lifelong learning program, for our employment innovation school, those are still the ratios and kind of some of the requirements that are in place. However, this summer we're launching a new program called Empower that is really meant to support individuals that is not a good fit for, because they need a higher level of support. And so this Empower program is meant to provide a lower staff to hipster ratio. So we're talking one staff member to four, maybe five hipsters, that do need support with feeding and toileting, that may have hygiene and mobility concerns or skills that they're still building, that may need more communication support. So that program is opening this summer. We're taking names for an interest list now, so that our admissions team can start working with families to determine if that is a better fit for their loved one. But we are launching that program this summer. That program is going to focus on daily living skills, self-help skills, communication, self-advocacy, sensory regulation, social connection and engagement. This program will also be a part of our bigger lifelong learning program. They'll have access to those classes, that content, the skills that are being built through that program, but on a smaller scale that is really meant to better meet those particular needs. So that's a population of
Are you
person that
anticipating a
historically we
waiting
haven't.
list for this program?
I do anticipate that we will have a waiting list. Yes.
Okay, and so it depends on the program to depend on the waiting list, but the bottom line, and this is true for most places that we talk to, is to explore early, tour
Yes.
early, get on the list early, and then that gives you the right to say no if you come up on the list or maybe
Right.
early access. Okay, and then
Yeah.
how many people do you plan to take in for this program?
We're going to take 10 in this initial cohort. And then as we see what the level of interest is and the level of need, then we do plan to expand from there.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Um, okay, so we're going to kind of change gears now and talk a little bit about our vocational training programs. Um, I see this coming through. It is ISS. It is an ISS program, to answer that question. Employment. Okay, so our Employment Innovation School is really built all around providing vocational skills training, to a variety of levels. We have three levels of programming within our Employment Innovation School: our pre-vocational level, a general vocational level, and then track specific. And I'll talk a little bit about the tracks in just a second. But that pre-vocational level is really meant to introduce the idea of work, and paid employment to the individual, building those interests. What would I be interested in doing? What kind of job would I maybe want to have? What does it mean to go to work? Kind of what's expected of me when I'm there. Those kinds of very beginning introductory skills. And then our general vocational classes are really meant for hipsters that maybe already have some of those skills, but they're wanting to build upon them, or they may already have a job, but they know they have some skill deficits in a particular area. And so we have built a series of classes to help bolster those skills in areas that are meaningful to that person. Some of those general vocational skills are safety in the workplace, are exploring different career pathways. We have various social skills classes that focus on social skills in the workplace. We know that that looks different than socializing with your friends, looks different than socializing at work. So we have a series of classes built around those kinds of topics, technology classes to learn some basic Excel, some basic data entry, Word, kind of getting familiar with some of those programs. And then we have our industry specific tracks, which is the slide that you're seeing right now. So we have 5 specific industry tracks that we are currently focusing on: culinary arts, retail, facilities, administrative support, and then hospitality. And what we've done is partnered with some different businesses and professionals in these areas to help us build out curriculum in each of these focused areas, to have someone go through a 9-month series of classes that when they are finished, we can say that they are ready for an entry level position in one of these areas. In several of these areas, the HIPster will leave with a certification. For instance, in our culinary program, part of that learning is the learning about food handlers and taking the food handlers license certification. Our HIPsters are also given the option to take the Texas alcohol beverage license test through a series of classes in that track. To give them a leg up, they can put that on their resume. They have those skills walking into that job interview. They can take that with them. Similarly, in our facilities track, our HIPsters go through classes to get them prepared to take the OSHA 10 certification, so that they can take that certification to a potential employer and say, I have been through this series of classes, I am certified in this area, and show that they have the skills that they need and be ready for a job in that area. And our other tracks are very similar. They are some classroom based, lots of hands-on. There are opportunities to go out into the community to practice these skills, to go shadow other professionals in these areas at some employment partners that we are partnered with. And it's really, the goal here is to get them ready for paid competitive employment. And that is the goal of our HIPsters that go through these classes. We've already graduated several cohorts of HIPsters through these classes since we opened in 2023. And we're really excited to continue that. We're continuing to grow and expand this particular piece of the vocational training too.
So there's a lot of programs in my head spinning with the different programs and the different tracks. So when a person comes and they do a tour, then they learn a little bit more about the programs, and you learn a little bit more about the individual and the family and what might be the best track for that individual, and what might be the best track right now might not be the best track, or maybe they graduate from one track to the next
Yep.
for the future, and there's flexibility with that. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. When they come in, if they are interested, particularly in the Employment Innovation School, there is an assessment that we do right off the bat. And that assessment is not meant to keep anyone out of the program, but it's really meant to help us determine what level of programming that individual is ready for. And then through that, we can explore if there's a specific track that they may be interested in. And so there's an assessment process that we go through with that. If you're coming in through the admissions process and not, you're not a current HIPster, that can be a part of our admissions process. It's definitely a part of the conversation with the admissions team as they are working with the family to determine what is what's the right program for your loved one. That all is a part of our admissions process and the conversation that we have with families to start making those decisions.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions that I just wanted to go through
Yeah.
just briefly. One said, is the Empower program an ISS program? If yes, what LONs, which stands for level of needs, do you plan to serve under HCS?
Yeah,
The one 4 to 5 ratio would work on site, but is wouldn't work for off site, basically.
sure. So it is an ISS program. We plan to serve levels of need probably 6 and 8. Again, it's individualized and we'll make those determinations based on the needs of that person. But that's what we're looking at right now. Yes, you're right. The on-site ratios work in that. And then we will have staffing to determine and make sure that our off-site ratios are within those guidelines as well. So that those are kind of internal staffing with the bigger program that we would do to make sure that when we're off-site, we're within the right ratio.
Okay, and then one question was, do they get paid? So I guess in this EIS track, do they get paid like other employees by the employer? Do the employers allow, I guess that there's the job program, but do they allow for coaching? And you do partner with like VR or the Texas Workforce
Mhm.
Commission?
Yeah, we do partner with VR. We do have certified trained job coaches on staff with us, so they can provide that level of support if that's what's needed. Um, We do, so it depends on the opportunity. So on the educational side of things, that those are unpaid, but we do have, as we are working with potential employment partners and corporations through another program that I'm going to talk about in just a second. There are opportunities, there are some paid opportunities through internships, through potential work experiences. And those are really a case by case with decisions that we're making with the employer, with what is the need. If they get hired on by an employer, obviously, yes, that is a fully paid by that employer opportunity, just like I get paid by my job and you get paid by your job. But there are some other opportunities, such as internships, that we are currently working through with some businesses where those hipsters would be doing a training process, but would also be paid.
And I just wanted to mention, because I think this comes up every time, Shelley, because if we've
Hmm.
got kids that are getting SSI or
Right.
childhood disability
Yep.
benefits, is how can they work and build some skills, but maybe not lose Medicaid? It's not, it's okay if SSI is reduced, but they don't want them to lose their status
Yep.
for childhood disability benefits under a parent's record. Don't want them to lose Medicaid. Certainly, if we waited for a HCS slot for 17 or 20 years, we don't want to lose that,
Right.
right? And so, what I will say is there are people there and also people with VR, subject matter experts that can help you plan and help schedule and that timing and that money so that you stay under that threshold. And just for inquiring minds for 2026, what the Social Security Administration calls the substantial gainful amount is $1,690 gross earnings per month. So basically, we want to keep them under that 1,690 for them to keep their benefits, and it depends on what program. That's a whole other webinar.
Right.
Okay, it depends on what program. SSI would be reduced for basically every $2 they earn, it gets reduced by $1, is how SSI works. Childhood disability benefits or Social Security disability benefits are not reduced for earnings, but those earnings still need to be less than that substantial gainful amount. And that amount changes each year. So that's why I gave you the 2026 number, the 1,690 gross earnings per month. So I just wanted to mention that, but I just want you to know that you're not alone in your feelings on that and you want to learn about that. My Possibilities is aware of it. Certainly we are vocational rehab, and they all have subject matter experts that can help you on that, okay?
Yeah, definitely. Just, a little piece of that. That is why we offer various types of opportunities, and we work closely with the families anytime that there's starts to be a conversation around hipsters being paid. Because for some families that doesn't work, and for some hipsters that's not the best way forward. And for some it is. And so we are providing multiple types of opportunities, so that no matter kind of what your circumstances are, your hipster can still participate in these types of experiences and opportunities, with or without being paid. So, the next program I want to talk about that kind of dovetails into this is our employee network. The employee network is something we started last year, and really it is a partnership. We have a group of businesses that continues to expand, that have dedicated to partnering with My Possibilities to help us provide these vocational training experiences through many of the ways that we've already talked about, through offsite visits to shadow and learn more about different types of businesses and job opportunities, through work experiences where hipsters are going there, for several weeks, up to maybe 12 weeks at a time, to do specific types of work and really work more alongside the people that are employed by that business, through internships and through paid and unpaid experiences. But it's really meant to provide us a network of employers and businesses so that we can provide the hands-on real world experience part of this training that we know is really critical to our hipsters and their learning.
We had somebody that did a write-in question. It says, I have an 18-year-old daughter who's high functioning autistic and needs help with post-secondary plans. And I think, clearly we do higher education webinars for individuals with disabilities. And it depends on where they are and their maturity
Right.
and their growth and their life skills and things like that. Sometimes a transition program or an ISS program might be a nice segue into
Right.
a class here or there, or then long-term classes. So there are all kinds of options, but sometimes some of these programs, like I said, they're just great middle grounds because a lot of our kids, I use the term with mine, late to the party, like we're getting there, but our maturity might not have been exactly
Yeah.
where we thought it might be at age 18. And so we just needed a few more years, or a year or two more of kind of growing and maturing to be able to take the next step of higher education or some kind of education course, things like that. And it doesn't mean that your child isn't ready, because we have some families that have kids with disabilities that are twice exceptional and they can't wait to go to higher education or go to college. But there are definitely options on that. But it sounds to me like what you guys do is you meet the individual where they are, and then you
Yes.
develop a plan that is appropriate for them, with growth in mind, that first we go here and we have some wins, and then we can move on to the next one, and we're building on the foundation that is was started basically.
Yeah, definitely so. And just to speak to that point, we've had some hipsters come through and go through one of our tracks or some of our just even our general vocational classes, and then go on to one of these other programs for higher learning that may be more on a college campus, or just go take some college classes. We definitely have had those types of hipsters come through this program as well. So again, it really is about the individual needs of that hipster. And we, do our very best in whatever we can to help that hipster take their next step, whatever that might be.
Yes. Mark Olson, will you put in the chat box what ISS stands for? Forever and ever, Texas called it DAHAB. And then a few years ago, they changed the name and they said, I know we're going to call it ISS. And I forget exactly what it stands for. I just know they call it ISS now. And we have been trained in Texas to call it DAHAB, but it's
Right.
not the same. Okay, there we go. Individualized
Yeah.
skills and socialization. Thank you, Mark. I knew you would fire that off quickly. Okay, thank you.
Um, all right, so it's still kind of in the vocational training lane. We do have a youth employment services program that we started. We piloted a couple of years ago and then really launched it last year. This is our only program currently that starts at age 14. And it's really meant to hit that transition or meet the needs of that transition age group, that 14 to 22-year-old age group. Earlier. So that we're building them a longer glide path, right? We're just giving them more time to build those skills so that when they are leaving high school, they're thinking about what comes next, they just have more options than they may have had otherwise.
So I just have a question because I know some of us are familiar with VR, vocational rehab, and some people have probably had mixed results. Some people would sing their
Sure.
praises and say it was great, and other people would say it would have been great if anybody would have ever called me back or followed up, or
Right.
I mean, we hear all across the board, and it just depends on where you are in the state. Are you guys like certified to be their VR person? Like I know that VR partners with different organizations. Like so could you be working with them on their job? VR is paying through it, you're a provider through them. So if they've
Yes.
had bad experiences or have not had the connection that they had hoped for in the past directly with VR, they could still be with VR, but indirectly, and you guys would be channeling the job and the job coaching and the work and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we're a vendor. So these services are all being provided by us as My Possibilities. The funding source in that particular scenario is vocational rehab. We also accept private pay for these services as well. If for whatever reason the TWC funding isn't the right fit for you for whatever reason.
We
But
did have a question about cost, and I know that that's a
uh
broad term because
yeah,
you have so many different programs, but let's just say, just give us a range, and we're always wondering about cost. What if our hipster came 5 days a week? What if they came 2 days a week or
yeah.
3 days a week? What does that look like? Can you just give us a range if it was private pay, what that looks like?
Yeah, and I have a slide on this a little bit later on, but if you're looking at 5 days a week, you're looking at about $1,000 a month and 1,020. And obviously it decreases the fewer days that you come, but that would be for the private pay rate. Camp or the youth employment services, which are our pre-employment transition services camps. Those are going to be about $500 to $600 a week. Um, and that covers, I think it's 9 to 3. It's pretty much a full day for a full week of camp. So that's similar to what I pay for my daughter to go full days for full weeks of camp. So we're trying to keep it, within that range. But in terms of these youth employment services, they are provided by individuals that are certified to provide those types of pre-ETS classes.
So summer camps, that's on the minds of people. It
Right.
always starts January, February, March. We're thinking about summer camps. Do
Yeah.
you still have openings for your summer camps?
We Yes, we definitely do. And you can reach out. So some of our contact information is at the end of this slideshow. You can reach out to our admissions team and they can connect you to the right person for those summer camp opportunities. But we definitely still have slots available right now.
And what I love about the summer camp opportunities, and we share with families, whether you have a child that is 18, 20, 21, we had a write-in that says, I'm 83 years old,
Right.
widowed, legal guardian, we live in an apartment looking for future needs. And the first thing I want to say is to the lady that wrote that, you're not alone. There are many other families that we talk to on a regular basis that are, mid 70s to mid 80s and are caring for, an adult, not an adolescent or young adult with special needs, and they are worried about what's next. But one of the things that we love the idea of, so even if your loved one has lived with you all these years, we like the idea of summer camp and being able to dip your toe in
Definitely.
to see how it is. It's a week. You're not fully committed to, you're going to do this every week, or, be in the hipster programs and that she's talked about. But I think a lot of our loved ones with disabilities don't always adapt well to change. And the reality of it is most humans don't adapt well to change.
Right.
Um,
Definitely.
but some of our kids struggle more with adapting to
Mhm.
change, and so the whole idea of dipping your toe in along the way of these various summer camps or a couple of days a week, maybe you start out with 1 day a week and then you go to two and then it's three. Maybe they love it and you go to five. But the
Right.
whole idea of trying this out and getting going, as opposed to waiting to a point where a person is no longer able to provide the care that they once did. And it's just like the rug is pulled out from under them all of a sudden. From ages 18 to 54, they've been doing the same thing in the same house with mom and dad all these years. And then the rug goes out from under them. And that's very, very stressful. So dip your toe
Mhm.
in. It's a good idea.
Definitely. I would agree with everything that Allison just said. And that's one reason why we wanted to start providing that particular age group in some camp opportunities is to get that toe in the water to kind of build some familiarity and gain some skills along the way. I just want to mention a little bit about a few of the other services we do have here at MP. MP in Motion is our personal training program. So that's one-on-one and small group personal training. That's kind of an add-on if your hipsters here for day programming and you would like for them to also do some workouts while they're here with us, then that's an option for you. Our MP Online program. I know I saw somebody pop in the chat about this is difficult in rural areas, and I completely agree with you. We are filling some of that gap with some online learning opportunities. Our online instructor is amazing. And he does a really amazing job of keeping those hipsters engaged, even over Zoom, which is, we all know, very difficult. And then we have our clinical services team. So we do have on site here with us speech therapy, music therapy, behavior therapy, and occupational therapy as options for our hipsters.
And can that go through their private insurance as well as the HCS waiver or class waiver, whatever waiver they have that is covering some of those things?
We don't take private insurance right now, but that is definitely something we know is a need and that we are working on internally to try to get some of those pieces in place.
Good luck. Yeah,
Thanks.
taking private insurance is it's
It's a beast.
it is a beast and you need a whole team for that. Oh my gosh,
Right,
I get it.
right,
Okay.
for sure. And then just a little bit about campus life. Campus life is what we call our respite, kind of all of those extracurricular activities. We have Special Olympics here. We have we have dances every month. We have get-togethers. We go camping, kind of all those after hours activities that we know that hipsters want to be a part of, and families enjoy a little time off as well. But we have a vast number of those types of opportunities also.
Okay, so a couple of other questions. I know you talked about this earlier. They may have not been on. The golf course was sold. The Garland golf course was
Right.
sold, and they changed plans on that. And they are starting their first, opening their first group home in 2026. And they plan to open a series of other group homes in the future, is the plan for the residential housing. And then we have another question. Will My Possibilities residential only be a three or a four person group home? And I know you talked about the level of needs of six or eight of like the various programs. And do you anticipate the level of needs kind of being in that range or below for the group homes as well?
Yes, I would say yes, that's correct. We will be sticking with the four person group homes is our model currently. Um, and those levels of need, 5, 6, 8, um, those are kind of our primary. But again, it's individualized, and we're going to look at everyone as an individual and what their needs are and make a determination of, whether or not we are able to support those needs. So we do look at it on a case by case basis. We don't just look at a level of need number and then make a decision.
Okay, and as an organization, My Possibilities, is it considered a nonprofit or is there a nonprofit tied to My Possibilities?
We are a nonprofit, yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we talked a lot about the residential for 2026, and that was what I had on my mind because I know that whenever I had toured, that it was, currently the day programs that we were talking about. And so I know what the short-term vision is for
Yeah,
residential, but can we talk about the bigger picture of long-term beyond? Is it just the group homes? We're still working on that. We're working out the details because I think a lot of people are here. I mean, we had a couple hundred people sign up for today's webinar, and I think what I understand to be the burning question always is who's going to care for them when I'm gone? Who's
right.
going to care for them when I can't? And are there going to be long-term residential options available? And I think what I think I hear, and you can correct me, Shelley, please,
Yes.
is that for someone who has somebody with severe needs, like maybe they're on a ventilator or a feeding tube, they cannot do any of their ADLs, or they
Right.
are a threat to themselves or others on a pretty regular basis, on a pretty high end of that. Those that's not who you serve right now, and it's not who you will likely serve in the future. So it's not to say that there's not options out there. You do take it on a case by case basis,
Right.
but there is a sweet spot of where you guys are able to provide the best services to serve your hipsters. Is that correct?
Yes, I would say that's correct.
Okay, so bigger picture, like long term, do we see like big picture, long term residential housing as you guys grow? You guys have grown exponentially since the napkin at Starbucks, like,
We have.
and that really wasn't that long ago on the scale. And you'll
No.
see what I mean when you go and take the tour and you see their facility and how awesome it is. You guys have, made huge progress over a relatively short period of time. So just tell us about that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I mean, we serve close to 100 or 500, not 100, 550-ish hipsters on a weekly basis right now. So yes, we've grown quite a bit from the 10 that we started with. In terms of residential, we do have that current home um, that we are currently renovating, and when that is ready and done, that group home will open. And then, like I said, um, we have other families that have already approached us about donating homes for this same purpose. So we do plan to grow um, to continue to grow. How big will that get? I can't say. But the goal here is to provide long-term residential solutions for our hipsters. And so again, as long as we continue to be able to support their needs long term, we will do that. We plan to do that. Um, Up and including, you know, more significant medical needs and support with ADLs and all of those kinds of things too. I know we're running short on time, so just some ways to get involved. If you are looking for programming for your loved one, I would encourage you to get in contact with our admissions team, schedule a tour. A tour is really the very best way to kind of get the idea of who we are and who we're serving. Um, Apply to be a hipster. We are always looking for partners for our employee network for employment opportunities or for work experience opportunities. And also, we're always looking for volunteers. So if you're looking for a place to serve, we would love to have a conversation with you about what that might would look like at My Possibilities. And then I do have the slide with the tuition options here, and I believe Allison said that everybody will get that. To understand these are current rates, tuition rates could change, but this is where we are as of right now. And then I just dropped in a little bit about the application process. There's a link here, or there's a link on our website to the admissions team to get that enrollment process started. You complete a tour, you submit your application. There are some fees associated with that. You meet with the admissions team. There's an interview. We always encourage you to bring your HIPster with you so that the admissions team can meet them. You can all have a conversation together. Sometimes there's assessments involved in that. We collect paperwork to let us get to know your HIPster better so that we can make the right decisions. Um, and then we move forward in the process. So I encourage you to make those reach outs.
This is a good question in the chat box, which is, it's good for all programs to ask this. And you do accept people that are under guardianship.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And the reason that is a good question is people that have looked at higher education options for kids with
Right.
disabilities, some of those programs don't take kids that are under
Yes.
guardianship. And so that's where that question is stemming from. And it is a good one. Somebody said, can we talk about other places in Houston? And so here's what I would say. Consolidated Planning Group partners with all kinds of residential options all across the state of Texas. And we've done multiple webinars where we do what I call kind of a speed dating, where each one of the places, so My Possibilities would be on there, Marbridge would be on there, it might be Daymark Living. There's so many. And they get on, and in about 3 to 5 minutes, they say who they are, where they're located, who they serve, how much they cost, and if they have openings. And basically, during a course of an hour, you might learn about 10 to 15 places that might be an option that you should visit their website, or maybe you should go take a tour. And I said it at the beginning, I strongly encourage people taking tours. A tour,
Yeah.
you feel things. It's not just what's on the website. You feel it. This either feels right for my family or it doesn't. I could envision my kid here or I can't. This is going to work. This isn't going to work. And so that there's a lot of benefits. So take a day trip, go take a tour, have fun while you're at it. And I think that that's time well spent. And then also, consider some of these camps, these summer camps, and that's a good
Yeah.
way to dip your toe in with multiple places if you're trying to figure that out. And thank you, Mark. I show up to the webinars. I don't know, always know when's what, but our next CPG residential webinar is June 30th. So we'll be doing that, but all of our past residential webinars have been recorded and they are on our YouTube channel, and you can find those and check those out for free. So I know like people, it depends on where you are on whether or not this fits right now. And then as residential expands, this might be a great program for the people that are out of your specific area, Shelley. But
Mhm. Yes.
so I just wanted to address that. I
Yeah.
want to, and this is your contact information. We got Shelley Crowder here, the Chief Program Officer. I just wanted to look at a few other questions that we had, and I wanted to make sure we didn't miss anything.
I saw one asking about the waiting list. I can only speak to us, but we do not currently have a wait list for our programming. There's obviously a process and that takes a little time, but there's no wait list.
Okay, let's see. I think actually we've mostly covered. I think we've mostly covered the write-in questions that we had set well, in between your slides and the questions that we have talked about. And so again, for being here and for this purposes, we understand that looking at all this feels daunting. If you have a high schooler
Right.
that's about to transition out, it feels nerve-wracking. Like, what are we going to do when this happens? And then if you're 83 years old and you have a 63-year-old and you're worried about what happens when I can't anymore, these are all real scenarios and everywhere in between. And I think if nothing else, if you take away that you're not alone, there are options out there. There are a lot of awesome options out there, and they're not unaffordable. Not all of them. Some of them, are more expensive than others, but so some of them can be covered by a waiver, some of them might not, but some of these other options aren't they're not a deal breaker, right? So some so I think, look early, go to her, reach out to Shelley, and you'll be glad you did. And here's what I know, and I know this from Mark and Shelley and all the other people that have attended our presented with our, residential panel. All of these people that present on that residential panel, they are smart. They are plugged in the special needs community. And if their place is not a good fit for your kid, they are going to be happy to provide you a list of names or other places that might be a great fit. So
For sure.
don't hesitate to reach out. And a lot of them, they've learned a lot along the way. A lot of them are special needs parents themselves. So we are a network, and so use your network when it comes to that, for sure. So everybody's going to get a copy of today's slides and a link to the recording. We'll have a link to our upcoming webinars where you can register for future webinars, and you can check out the housing, the residential one that Mark mentioned in the chat box. You can sign up for that one. We always offer free personalized consultations. If you need to kind of get a checkup of where are you, where have you been, how much money do I need to fund a special needs trust, I need help applying for some of these public benefits, how and when do I need to apply, we can help with all of those things. So certainly it has been my pleasure being with you. Thank you, Shelley, for presenting and sharing about my possibilities. I'll look forward to being in person in the summer. I think it's in June. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys then. And thanks everybody for your awesome questions. And I hope everybody has a great afternoon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye now.